Okay, can everybody see? Welcome this morning to the University of Washington and to the Geodesign Workshop being organized by a number of people in addition to me. I'm Tim Nyerges from the Department of Geography, professor in geography, and I'm director of the Professional Master's Program for the Masters in GIS for Sustainability Management. And I'm also the director of the Participatory Geographic Information Systems Technology in the Geography Department. So I just have some few comments here about what we're going to do. Many of you, most of you I should say, have received documentation over the last several months in various forms as it is. If there's any particular project running along, there's always going to be a work in progress kind of a thing. But we're going to do this morning, essentially, even though this is still a work in progress as it would be. So the idea here, geodesign dynamics within complex sustainable systems, that's a pretty loaded mouthful as it would be for things. So we're looking at the dynamics of decision making. That's really the character here from a spatial decision support perspective, really. And spatial decision support, I would call the best nuance in the world geodesign in terms of what that means for spatial decision support. Within the complex sustainable systems, we're going to be dealing with watershed sustainability in general, but actually from a perspective, a bit broader perspective, as I try to work in the idea of the comprehensive plan issue in here. And so there's a need to understand that this within preposition is actually fairly important. The within part is that we are human beings, we are within the world as it would be. We do things to the world does things to us as it would be. There's a human environment interaction thing going on here. And so from an institutional perspective, we are in essence, as we are all stakeholders of some nature, within this complex system, this complex environment that we're working in. And the idea is that we're not going to be doing things to a system, but we do things to our system is what it is. This is sort of like the analogy of the spaceship Earth kind of thing going forward here. So the workshop is meant to explore community-oriented complex systems. Why I say community-oriented complex systems, I'll get to this in a minute in terms of my labeling, but I'd just like to highlight here the character of who we are. We're not yet the full complement of 30 people, as I see here this morning. There are 30 people who are confirmed, but of course, what's that really mean? Get up in the morning, right? Go to wherever you're supposed to go, and if you're here, you're here, as the case would be. But there are several departments, units across the University of Washington, in addition to the National Science Foundation, who are contributing funds for us to do what it is we do. And I know that many people who have asked me, you mean there's no fee for this workshop? Well, actually, in terms of there has to be funds to be raised as it would be. And so I want to acknowledge all of these units here without actually reading off, because we have many things to do this morning. So I am the convener. I have the pleasure of introducing Dr. Carl Steinitz from the Harvard University Emeritus Professor, the Alexander and Victoria Wiley Emeritus Professor of the Harvard Graduate School of Design. He's also associated as a, I'm not sure if it's really affiliate, adjunct, or what.
Honorary professor.
Honorary professor at the University College London, attached to the Center for Advanced Spatial Analysis. We have with us today Rishi Balal. Rishi is the software author for the geodesign.study.com software that we're using. We have Tess Canfield, who will be helping out with the directing the videography, as she has been in many of the workshops as well that Carl has done around the world. And it's important for us to, as you will see now and again, it won't be the same videographer, I understand. It'll be tag teaming half through the day, but we'll always be video the workshop here. And so one of these handouts that you have is an informed consent. I would like you to sign the informed consent in order to participate in the workshop. So this is human subjects, internal review board kind of stuff that we have to do, just to say that I have to let you know that this is a workshop in dynamic decision making as it would be. I don't expect there to be any stress, as the case would be.
Oh, it's not.
Decisions are decisions, right? Sometimes we're concerned about what it is that we do. In terms of the preparation for the workshop here, the three research assistants I have, John Richmond, Mary Roderick, and Will Anthony Monarock. They're three sitting over here at the table. They will act as the map data consultants. They're the ones who help prepare the evaluation maps that we are using as the foundation for what it is that we're doing. And so it'll be important to ask them questions if you have any questions about the character of the data. So this complex systems topic that we've chosen, I have been for several years talking to Carl and to Tess about the systems approach kind of thing. But Carl's for many years, so that's 5 decades, and many is decades. And so 50 years he's been at this stuff, as it would be. And so he's been a systems thinker since the mid-60s, as it would be, and encouraging an understanding, but given the nature of what geodesign has been over the last several years, it has really been, in a sense, we would say, a smaller project kind of an approach here. And I have, for the last several years, several meetings, maybe in the area of 15 years, trying to bring it into the broader scale, the more macro scale. I should say micro and macro, as we talked about the nature of cartographic and geographic scales, the difference in inverses, right, to each other. Cartographic scale is those numbers, those numerator, denominator kinds of things. I might, just getting started. So the nature of the systems topic here, what we have is we have growth management going on in the state of Washington, right? Anybody remember 1987 kind of time frame? Do you know that the growth management law would have been a referendum if the Friends of Washington would have had their way? But there was somebody smart enough at the legislature to say that this public initiative was moving forward in the late 80s. And they said, we better do something about this in the legislature. Let's get off our butts and make a law. So they, within a year, had crafted the character of the law, which actually was instituted in 1991, essentially, for growth management law. But of course, the nature of Washington and the Pacific Northwest and so on, it's in some respects a managed society, not the same way as maybe Oregon manages society. A little bit difference in terms of the history and the lineage of how these growth management things occur. But nonetheless, there are elements within the law. And some of you might have known that in the first edition of the law was the term GIS. You know that it was in the law. You will use a GIS or a set of maps. The 1995 update kind of took that out and said, I need a neat piece of technology, the nature of the law, but nonetheless. We used to jest a little bit, my former colleague Nick Crispin and I, that was the GIS Full Employment Act of 1991. Because I had the term GIS in it. So we have in the state of Washington 39 counties that are planning in some respects, all of them I should say, under a resource kind of perspective, but because of the nature of population growth, only some of them are mandated to actually plan. But in King County, I have heard, and maybe Jim, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, I have heard that King County, in the 3,033 counties of the U.S., is the most forward-looking environmental county in the country.
That's not government.
It's one way to look at it, right? But of course, over the years, as it would be, there's quite a long history of the salmon population in the state of Washington, which is a huge issue, right? In terms of late 80s, early 90s, Endangered Species Act, orca eat salmon. How many other states in the nation have an orca population that visits every year, does its thing, right? Have these names by each of these whales, as it would be. So it's pretty important stuff. So in effect, that's helping to drive much of the sense, the lineage of what goes on in growth management here. And so we have then, coming today, we're interested in looking at how different systems as a thematic, Carl has called these requirements, and so we can easily call these system requirements, as it would be. It'll be important for us in the first phase of what we're doing here when we look at and break out into the systems 10 teams from each of these different themes, which are the most significant foundational systems and which ones follow in the nature of what it is they do. I'm not sure that I've ever had a chance to actually look at those in terms of priorities, as it would be, because everyone who's invested in some kind of system, meaning putting your time into one of these systems, prioritizes those that you put your time into as being the most significant. Of course they're the most significant. They're the one you spend your time on, your interest on, right? It's what kind of drives us sometimes, as it would be. So this is the character of why this 10 systems approach. And so the topic last night when Carl did the public lecture, he kind of said something about why 10, how many fingers usually, how many toes usually, right? How many digits. We have a decimal-based system as a counting system, so it makes a lot of sense that we just look at 10. It's a little bit better number than 9, a little bit better number than 11, maybe, as the case would be, in terms of things that we do in the world. So this is the character, essentially, of what it is that we do. I know that we cannot assume that all of you have either read Carl's book, have read my book, as the case with my textbook, since I actually beat Carl in a punch in terms of getting it into a textbook, as it would be, and have not seen maybe one of his lectures. So what I would like to do is once again introduce Carl so that he can give us some methodological backdrop in terms of what it is that we'll do with this 10 systems idea. But